Have you ever had a moment, I mean, maybe you were standing on the edge of a canyon seeing something massive, or maybe you were just looking across the dinner table at someone you've known for years,
Hmm.
and you just felt this wave of emotion so huge, so complex that you knew, like, instinctively that if you tried to speak, you would just ruin it.
That's specific paralysis,
Yeah.
where the feeling is 100 miles wide and the words you have are, what, an inch wide?
Exactly. It feels like you're trying to shove a universe into a suitcase.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit.
Yeah.
And the second you try to put it into words, the magic kind of evaporates, right?
It
Just
does.
that frustration, that gap between what we feel and what we can actually say is exactly where we are living today.
It is. We're doing a deep dive into a really fascinating piece of writing that doesn't just, acknowledge that gap.
Mm-hmm.
It actually argues that we should stop trying to bridge it.
Right.
It suggests that language might actually be an obstacle to love rather than the vehicle for it.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are unpacking a poem by Raxbos titled If Love Had a Language. And for anyone listening who might be rolling their eyes at the idea of analyzing a love poem,
Uh-huh.
stick with us, because this isn't about roses and chocolates or, Hallmark sentiments. This is a philosophical argument about the failure of communication, the power of silence, and what the author calls the dreadful cage of societal expectations.
Yeah, it's a text that really challenges the very way we construct relationships. I mean, usually we think the goal of a relationship is to communicate better.
Of course.
We go to therapy to learn I statements, we write these long vows, we draft the perfect text message, we obsess over saying the right thing.
All the time.
This source material suggests that maybe the highest form of connection happens when you stop trying to define it entirely.
Which is a terrifying thought for control freaks like me who want to label everything.
Yeah.
But let's get into it. The poem opens with a hypothesis that just sets the stage for everything that follows. It starts, if love had a language, I don't know what it would be.
It's such a disarming opening. I mean, usually if you're reading a poem, especially a love poem, you expect the poet to be the authority.
Yeah. Let me tell you what love is.
Exactly. But Raxbos starts with a confession of ignorance. I don't know.
It immediately strips away the ego. It puts the narrator in a position of humility. But it's not just, I don't know. It's, I don't know what the language would be.
Right.
It implies that English or, whatever language they speak isn't cutting it. It's insufficient.
Precisely. It suggests that our standard human language is a tool for, like, commerce, for ordering coffee, maybe for arguing politics or giving directions. But for this specific emotion, the tool is broken.
Mm.
It's like trying to play a symphony with a hammer. But the narrator doesn't stay in that confusion for long. There's an immediate pivot in the text to a different sense entirely.
Right. The very next line says, but I feel staring and gazing would be fine for me.
And that is the thesis statement of the entire piece. We are moving from the auditory talking, listening words to the visual.
To staring and gazing.
Yeah.
Let's just parse that for a second, because staring can sometimes have a bit of a bad rap. If I say stop staring at me, that's a negative thing. It's intrusive.
True. Staring can be predatory or impolite, but here, it's paired with gazing. When you gaze, you are usually looking with wonder. You gaze at the stars.
The ocean, yeah.
By combining them, staring and gazing, the poet is describing a state of just fixed, rapt attention. It's an unbroken connection.
It reminds me of that idea in psychology, limbic resonance, where two mammals can sort of attune their nervous systems just by being near each other and making eye contact.
That's a perfect parallel.
You don't need a syntax for that. You just need presence.
That's it. The source is arguing that language acts as a filter. When I describe my love to you, I am encoding my feelings into words, and you have to decode them. Signal loss happens. Misinterpretation happens. But gazing is a direct line.
It's raw data.
It's raw data. It creates a loop of attention that doesn't require translation.
It's almost cinematic. If you think about how this poem reads, it demands a certain slowness. You can't just rush through staring and gazing. You have to sit in it.
You really do. If you were reading this aloud, you'd have to leave silence between the lines to let that gaze actually happen.
So if the method of communication is sight, what exactly are we looking at? Because the poem gets very descriptive here. It starts with the face, your mysterious eyes, your shining bright smiles, which I could see from distant miles.
There's a really interesting tension in those two lines. You have mysterious eyes and shining bright smiles.
Okay.
Think about that contrast. A mystery is something hidden, something dark or deep you have to solve. It pulls you in.
And a shining smile is radiant, outward projecting light. So the subject of the poem is both a riddle and a beacon.
Exactly. They are drawing the narrator in with the mystery, but guiding them with the light. And that line, which I could see from distant miles, it's obviously hyperbolic. You can't physically see a smile from miles away.
Right.
But emotionally, it feels like you can. It elevates the subject to this almost mythic status. They aren't just a person, they're a landmark.
But here's where the deep dive gets really fun. Because if the poem stayed on eyes and smiles, it would be a little cliche.
A Hallmark card.
A total Hallmark card. You have nice eyes is the oldest line in the book, but it doesn't stay there. It zooms in like a camera lens, tightening focus on one incredibly specific detail.
The anchor of the poem.
The encircled flowery bun of your sweet, beautiful hair.
Yes. This is where the poem moves from a general concept of romance to a specific lived reality.
It's so granular. It's not just your hair. It's a bun. It's encircled. It's flowery. It makes you feel like you're looking at a photograph.
Well, why do you think that specificity matters so much here?
Well, it feels real. I mean, you have beautiful eyes is something you can say to anyone. I love the way your hair looks in that specific flowery bun is something you can only say to that person in that moment. It proves you're paying attention.
Exactly. It's the difference between a platitude and a memory. The encircled flowery bun implies effort, intricacy. Someone took the time to style that hair. It suggests a circularity, a mandala almost, a closed loop of beauty.
Wow.
The narrator isn't just looking at the person, they're studying the architecture of the person.
And notice the narrator's reaction to this specific visual. The text says, "This image has entangled me and made me gasp for air."
Entangled, it mirrors the image of the bun itself. The hair is wound up and circled, and now the narrator is wound up in the hair.
It's a metaphor for capture.
It is.
Yeah.
And gasp for air. That is a visceral physiological reaction. We aren't talking about, oh, that's nice. We are talking about the wind being knocked out of you.
Yeah.
It's a somatic response.
Yeah.
The body is reacting before the brain can even form a sentence. That gasp validates the whole opening claim that there are no words for this.
Oh, that's a great point.
When you gasp, you literally cannot speak. You are interrupting the breath required for speech. The beauty has physically silenced the narrator.
That is a profound way to look at it. The gasp is the anti-word. It's the body taking over. But the poem doesn't let us stay in this moment of rapture. It shifts gears into a narrative. The next section starts with, "I woke up with a sudden despair."
This is the drop. We go from the high of the gasp to the low of despair.
And it's triggered by waking up. So does that mean the previous part was a dream?
It's ambiguous, and I think that's intentional. It could have been a literal dream where they were visualizing that hair bun, or it could be that waking up represents snapping back to the mundane reality of the world. The despair comes from the fear that the connection, that intense wordless entanglement, isn't real or is lost.
That is a universal anxiety in relationships, isn't it? That feeling when you're away from the person or you've just had a moment of disconnection and you think, wait, was that all in my head? Did I make this up?
It's the fragility of intimacy. When you feel something that strong, the shadow it casts is the fear of losing it. But the poem resolves it instantly, only to see that you are not far but near.
The relief in that line is palpable, not far but near. Presence.
Physical proximity restores the connection. And this proximity allows for what I consider the most paradoxical and important couplet in the entire text.
I think I know which one you mean. The beautiful words were never exchanged, but I spoke and you listened.
That's it. I spoke and you listened, but no words were exchanged.
So, play devil's advocate here. Is the poet talking about telepathy? Some kind of magic, or is this something more grounded?
I don't think it's magic in the supernatural sense. I think it's referring to a level of attunement where intent is transferred without vocabulary.
Okay.
Think about a long-term couple at a boring dinner party. One looks at the other, a slight widening of the eyes, a micro-expression. The other person knows exactly what was said. I am bored. Save me. Let's go.
Right, a whole paragraph of information transferred in a split second, or when you're grieving and someone just sits with you. They don't say anything, but you feel heard.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But in the context of the poem, it's not about leaving a party or grief. It's about conveying love. The speaking happens through that act of staring and gazing we established earlier. The narrator projects the feeling, and the subject listens, receives it, without needing a verbal confirmation.
It creates a closed circuit. You don't need the validation of, did you hear me? Because you felt them hear you.
And because that circuit is closed and complete, the narrator realizes They don't need anything else. They don't need the external trappings of romance.
Yeah.
And this leads us into the most, I think, rebellious part of the deep dive, the rejection of this social contract.
This part surprised me. Usually you expect a love poem to lead to promises.
Mm-hmm.
I promise to love you forever. I promise to build a life with you. But Rex Boss writes, that is all that I wanted. No promises, no words that remind or bind us to the masses.
Bind us to the masses. It's a very sharp, almost aggressive phrase.
It sounds a little elitist almost, like we aren't like other people, you know? We aren't basic.
I think it's less about elitism and more about authenticity. Think about what a promise is socially. A marriage vow, a relationship status on Facebook, a title like boyfriend or partner.
Yeah.
These are scripts.
Yeah.
They are pre-written roles that society, the masses, has agreed upon.
So when you call someone your wife or husband, you are stepping into a box that millions of other people are also in. You're adopting a set of rules that you didn't write.
Precisely. And the narrator is saying, I don't want the box. I don't want the script. I just want this. If we make promises, we are performing for an audience. If we use labels, we are categorizing something that should be uncategorizable.
This leads directly to that striking metaphor that really stuck with me. The narrator says, if love had a language, I wouldn't bind you to love's dreadful cage.
Love's dreadful cage. It just stops you in your tracks, doesn't it? We are conditioned to think of love as liberation, as freedom. Love sets you free.
Right.
But this source argues that the language of love, the definitions, the expectations, is actually a cage.
It's a dreadful cage because it limits possibility.
Think back to the flowery bun that was encircled. That's a soft, organic shape. It's held together by tension and art. A cage is rigid. It has bars. It has a lock. Once you define a relationship, we are exclusive, we are dating, we are married. You have defined the edges of it. You've built walls. The narrator wants to keep the relationship in the realm of the encircled bun, fluid, natural, visual, not structural.
That's a heavy concept. It suggests that by trying to secure love with titles and promises, we might actually be killing the very thing that makes it alive. We're pinning the butterfly to the board.
Exactly. Once you pin the butterfly, you can study it, you can name it, you can tell everyone, look at my butterfly. But it's dead. It can't fly anymore. The silence, the refusal to use words that bind, is a strategy to keep the butterfly alive. It's a protective silence.
So the narrator is choosing uncertainty over security. Because promises give you security. I promise not to leave. Without that, aren't you just constantly anxious?
Maybe. But the poet seems to think that security is an illusion anyway, or at least that the trade-off isn't worth it. They would rather have the raw, dangerous, breathtaking reality of the gaze than the safe, boring security of the cage.
But the poem acknowledges that you can't stay in that state forever. Reality intrudes again near the end. Our time is limited, and so are the verses.
The clock is ticking. Mortality is the shadow in every great romance. Our time is limited. We don't have infinite time to figure this out. We don't have time to waste on the dreadful cage or playing house for the masses.
Right.
We have to get to the core of the connection now.
And the verses are limited part. That's meta, right? The poem itself is running out of lines.
It is. The poet is admitting that even this attempt to capture the feeling is finite. The poem will end. The speaking will stop. The life will end. So what is left when the words run out and the time runs out? What actually survives?
That brings us to the final wish, the legacy. And this to me is the most touching part of the source material. If love had a language, I want you to remember me as the person who fell in love with the encircled flowery bun of your sweet, beautiful hair.
It circles all the way back. It ends exactly where it peaked.
It's incredibly specific. They don't want to be remembered as the one who bought you a house or the one who was a great writer or even the one who is a good person. They want to be remembered as the witness to that hair bun.
It's a radical reduction of the ego. Usually we want to be remembered for our traits. He was kind, she was smart, they were successful. The narrator says, no, remember me only in relation to you. My identity is that I saw you.
I am the one who noticed.
And specifically, I am the one who noticed the detail that everyone else missed. The masses might see a girl. The narrator sees the encircled flowery bun. That specific high-resolution attention is the ultimate act of love.
It's beautiful because it's so small. It's not a grand gesture. It's not Romeo and Juliet dying for each other. It's a microscopic moment of appreciation.
And that's the takeaway, isn't it? The source material takes us on this journey from abstract confusion, I don't know what love's language is, to absolute concrete clarity. But the clarity isn't a word. It's an image. It's a memory.
It really challenges the way we operate in the modern world. We are so obsessed with communication tools. We have endless apps to communicate. We have emojis to replace feelings. We have status updates to broadcast our love. We over-communicate constantly.
And we mistake that noise for connection. This deep dive reminds us that there is a primal foundational layer of intimacy that exists before language. And if you don't have that, if you don't have the gasp, if you don't have the staring and gazing, no amount of talking is going to manufacture it.
It's about presence over performance.
And resisting the urge to label everything immediately. That fear of the dreadful cage is a valid warning. Sometimes, in our rush to lock a relationship down, to define what we are to each other, we crush the mystery that drew us together.
We turn the shining bright smile into a contractual obligation. We trade the mystery for the certainty, and we lose the magic in the process.
Precisely. The poem asks us to be brave enough to sit in the silence, to let the connection be what it is, without needing to put a name tag on it, to just watch the bun get entangled and gasp.
You know, there's a bit of irony here. We have spent the last 15 minutes using a lot of words to analyze a poem that explicitly tells us words are useless.
The irony is fully present. But hopefully our words have acted as a signpost. We're pointing at the silence and saying, go there. That's where the good stuff is.
Staring and gazing would be fine for me.
It's a good mantra. It's permission to stop talking and start looking.
So here's the thought I want to leave you with today as we wrap up this deep dive. We've talked about the flowery bun as this anchor of memory. We've talked about the dreadful cage of labels.
And the power of the specific detail.
Exactly. So, listener, try this. Think about the person you love most. It could be a partner, a parent, a child. If you stripped away all the labels, husband, wife, father, daughter, if you stripped away all the promises you've made, and if you couldn't use any words to describe your relationship, what is left?
What is the image that remains?
What is your version of the encircled flowery bun? What is the specific visual detail that would make you gasp for air even if you lost everything else?
It's a question worth staring at for a while.
Indeed it is. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
Until next time.
See you then.